All right, we're done. All right. Time to render judgment upon this game. For some reason, I got to pull this up first to get it to capture the window. All right, so here we are. Game number 17, TMNT Arcade Action. We can now mark this off as green. Green. This was estimated between 2 and 6 hours, so I'm guessing 6 was more of completionist. It took me about 2.5. I did have to replay one of the levels because I died, and then I hit the wrong button when it asked me if I wanted to continue because I was thinking Xbox controls, and it said hit A, and I hit A on the Xbox controller, which is B, so I did not continue, so I had to replay the level, which is annoying because anyway. All right, so about 2.5 hours, and now it's time to talk about the game. All right, graphics. I think somebody else said it well. You can tell this was a Nintendo DS game. Like, it was fine. Again, it was not the best or worst I've seen on the DS. A lot of DS games were kind of like that. They were kind of blocky polygon, kind of looking PS1 era. It wasn't like offensive. It's not like I was a little worried when looking at the if I flip back here, like looking at the turtles on the cover here, I was a little worried of what we were in for because like these didn't really look like any version of the turtles I've ever seen. So I don't technically know what this is based on. So like some of the characters I think were from the 2003 cartoon, like that version of Baxter Stockman, and I think Hun and Karai was I think maybe from the 2003 cartoon, but these are not the turtles from the 2003 cartoon on this package. So I don't know like what kind of licensing or whatever, but I was a little worried when I saw that. I'm like, what is this game? Takes place after it. Okay, well, makes sense. Anyway, holy shit. I think that was a car. It sounded like something exploded. I'm okay. I can hear it like going down the road. Somebody's having a bad day out there, I think. I don't think it was a gun. I think it was like a backfire. Holy crap, that scared the bejesus out of me. Anyway, Ninja Turtles. Graphics were pretty mid. The stages were not really inspiring. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's okay, Kitty. Come here. Yeah, it's just a loud car. It's all right. I mean, I don't know. They all kind of looked very samey, even though they were set in different spots. They go from like construction site to city to other city to third city. Then we went inside to an office building. That was kind of fun because you could throw copy machines at people, but like, I don't know. It was just kind of all background noise. Nothing was particularly well done. Like, they weren't very vibrant. There was like not a lot going on in the background. I don't know. I'd say it was pretty mid. Probably give the graphics around a 5. The sound in this game, so here's the thing. I have mixed feelings on this. There was no voice acting at all. On one hand, at least it wasn't TMNT 2003 where they only had 2 voice clips and they repeated constantly. But on the other hand, could have done something. Like even if it was just in the cutscenes, like I know the DS was capable of having some voicing. Like it wasn't going to be the best, but you could have done something. So no voice acting. The sound effects were kind of weird. Like the sound effect for hitting someone with a lead pipe sounded like you were dropping an empty lead pipe instead of like hitting something with a lead pipe. A lot of the other stuff was just very generic, you know, punch, kick kind of sounds. None of the characters had voice lines. None of the bosses had voice lines. The music, I mentioned it several times. The music was very like muted most of the time. Like it was not exciting. It was not energetic. It was just kind of like menu music that I would expect to like be hearing in like the lobby of like an online game, or like the menu music of an RPG or something. Like it just didn't didn't do the game any favors, and the game was already kind of weak. And so well, I'm giving the sound like a 4. It wasn't offensive, it wasn't bad. There are some games that have really bad sound effects and they're constantly like peaking, and this game didn't have that, but it just was very bland. The gameplay here was very boring. Um there were a couple things that like on the surface felt like variety, but at the end of the day, you were still just mashing a button. Whether it was the weapon button or the punch kick or the kick button, like you were still just mashing the button 3 times, or like jumping and hitting the button. There was not a real big difference. I appreciate that they tried to like give turtles unique play styles where it's like, oh, Raphael is good at hand-to-hand combat versus so and so is good with weapons. The punches and kicks just did not work. Like you had to be so close for them to actually hit. And they would go over the small enemies, like the Mausers, you would just kick over their heads. So you really just had to keep mashing the A button, or the B button, I should say. And it was really repetitive. There was a lot of cheapness where like enemies would get unblockables and they would like fire them off like in the middle of being hit. Like it's one thing if like an enemy is left alone for 3 seconds and then they get the opportunity to do a strong attack and that attack be unblockable. That I think is fair. Like when you're in the middle of like a 3-hit combo and you're like punch, punch, and then like they're being staggered as they're being hit, but all of a sudden he just decides like I'm no longer staggered. I'm actually going to start my unblockable attack while you're in the middle of your third attack of a 3-hit combo. Your third hit is not going to hit me, and then I'm going to immediately hit you with the unblockable. Like it felt bad, and it did it with several different enemy types. And there was just nothing. Like they tried to do the team up attacks. Excuse me. They tried to do the team up attacks, and those just didn't really feel great. Like I said, you had to, instead of having a button, so Portal Power, we all remember that one, had a team attack button that you charge the meter and then you would hit the button and all the turtles would do a team up attack, right? And it was very easy to use and it was very effective. In fact, it was maybe even too powerful, but that's not neither here nor there. In this one, you had to walk up to your partner, grab them, and then press one of the 2 attack buttons, which would do one of 2 team attacks. One was like the swinging attack, and the other one you would throw the other turtle up in the air and they would come back down. As many times as I did it, I could not find a way to actually control where they come back down. And most of the time, it was on a different part of the screen where there were no enemies. So it didn't feel good. So I think I'm giving the gameplay like a 4. It was boring, and like the things that they tried to do to spice it up just made it worse. Controls, it kind of in the same boat here. It felt good enough. Like you could move around. The buttons were pretty responsive. There wasn't a big delay or anything. Um, it was easy enough to do like the jump attacks and the things like that. Those some of the games that I played was really hard to get that to work. Like TMNT 2003 specifically was really rough on the jump attacks. The grabbing was abysmal. It was too hard to do. And then when you would, the AI would just knock them away from you. So again, I'm thinking controls are probably getting about a 5. They weren't good and they weren't bad. There were some things that were okay, and then some things that were less than okay. So I guess in that case, having said that out loud, I'll give them a 4. The story, at least this game had a story. There were some things that I feel like it didn't explain, and we tried to fill that with looking up some information in the manual, but I couldn't find the manual. Um, I did a search for it, and I came up with some stuff, but this is just about controls and the release date. Um, and I kind of went to this Turtlepedia page, and it had some information about the plot. This is the plot is set after the turtles return from 2105. But then when they found out about the future, they're like, oh, what? So like this can't be, this doesn't seem right. But somehow, some way, Shredder was banished to the internet in 2105. So somebody had to have done it. And so they send somebody back, and they send this guy back in time. We killed him. I don't know, man. This game was just kind of weird. The story was there, and at least it had some cutscenes that explained some of the stuff, but it was very basic, and it did leave some things kind of wanting. So I think at best I can probably just give this maybe like a 7. Compared to other TMNT games, like I said, at least it had a story. Like it had some plot and like some reason as to why you're doing stuff, but like a lot of the characters you would expect to be in the game weren't in the game. Like there was no mention of April O'Neil, there was no Krang, there was no, it. But then again, like the 2003 show, I don't know a lot about it. I don't think a lot of those like side characters existed. Like a lot of like Bebop and Rocksteady, like I don't think they were in that show. So it's kind of weird. So it's a little unfamiliar to me to begin. So innovation. This game does not does not really bring much new to the table. About the only thing, and I mentioned it at the very beginning, is that it did have the capability to do game share. That if you did have a friend with a DS, you could invite them to play this with you, and they could like download it wirelessly from you and play with you. I think that's pretty cool. It was pretty common for DS games, so it's not like this invented the wheel. But in terms of like TMNT games, there weren't a lot of ones that you could do that with. So I think that's kind of neat. But other than that, like it didn't have any like new unique game modes. It had like survival mode, which I assume probably just means like you don't get healing items or can't maybe you can't continue if you die and then have to start over. I don't know. There's not a whole lot going on here. Like I feel like this is like a 2. Content replayability. It was about 2.5 hours long to beat the game. To unlock all the modes, you'd probably have to beat the game for 4 or 5 times. But like honestly, from a replayability standpoint, like I don't want to play this game again. We were talking last night, Hyperstone Heist and Arcade, they're both under an hour long, but they're fun. And like I would have been okay like firing that one up again and playing it again today. So they're highly replayable. This one, I never want to see it again. It was just so bland and so boring. The stages were just too long. Like I don't want to play this again. So it's not a very long game, and you don't want to replay it. So again, I think the content replayability on this is pretty low. If I had paid 20-30 bucks for this, I would have been pretty disappointed. So there you have it. Let's run some math here. All right, that is a even 4.0. Oh, I want it 4.0. 4.0. Stop cutting my decimals. Whatever. I don't care. Go and put that one back on the board. 0. God, stop.